Welcome, curious minds, to a journey through time and innovation. I am Nikola Tesla, the man who dreamt of electricity that dances through the air and machines that harness the power of nature. Here, on this channel, we'll unravel the mysteries of my inventions and explore how they've sculpted the world you live in today. From the sparking curiosity ignited by my cat macaque, to the creation of a weapon that could have changed the course of history, my story is one of triumph, tragedy, and undying ambition. In this series, you'll delve into the depths of my mind, discovering the secrets behind the alternating current that powers your homes, the radio waves that carry your voices across continents, and the visions of wireless energy that were far ahead of my time. But my tale is not just about the successes. It's about the struggles, the battles with giants of industry, the dreams that soared and sometimes fell, and the relentless pursuit of a future that many deemed impossible. So, if you're ready to embark on this electrifying adventure, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts and questions. Your engagement fuels this channel, much like my alternating current fuels the modern world. Born on July 10th, 1856, in the small village of Smiljan, then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and now in Croatia, I entered a world rich in heritage and complexity. My father, Nikola Tesla, was a Serbian Orthodox priest, a path he chose diverging from the military legacy of his own father. My grandfather, also named Nikola Tesla. My grandfather, an officer in the French Empire during the Napoleonic Wars, married Anna Kalinic, the daughter of a respected colonel. Post-Napoleon, they settled in Lika, becoming part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, while my uncle Joseph found his calling in mathematics, becoming a respected professor and author in Austria. My father turned to spirituality, joining the Orthodox seminary in Plaski. His decision came after a somewhat tumultuous time in military training, where his attention to detail, particularly regarding the shininess of brass buttons, was questioned. My mother, Juka Mandic, was the daughter of a priest and niece to influential figures, including an archbishop and a colonel. She was a brilliant woman, a true innovator at heart, often modifying household appliances to improve their efficiency. Her inventiveness and creative spirit were a constant inspiration to me. They married in 1847, and our family story began by the Adriatic coast in Senje, later moving to Smiljan, where my father received a picturesque farmhouse and even an Arabian horse from a Turkish pasha. Here, my father continued his work as a reformer, advocating for education and literacy. My childhood, shared with my siblings, was filled with curiosity and exploration. I remember vividly my black cat, Macaque, who introduced me to electricity's wonders through simple yet mesmerizing experiences. My young mind was both fascinated and troubled by vivid imaginations, often blurring the lines between reality and illusion. Inspired by my mother's ingenuity, I spent countless hours experimenting, dreaming up flying machines, and disassembling clocks, always yearning to understand how things worked. This was the beginning of my journey, one that would lead me to discoveries and inventions that, I believe, have the power to change the world. In 1863, my childhood was shattered by the tragic death of my older brother, Dane. He died in a harrowing accident involving our family's Arabian horse, right before my eyes. This traumatic event haunted me for years, and in its aftermath, my father moved our family to the larger town of Gospic, searching for a fresh start. In Gospic, I struggled to adjust to the urban lifestyle, feeling out of place in this new environment. Dane's death cast a long shadow over my relationship with my father, Milutin. Grieving and unable to appreciate my talents, he often treated me harshly. This neglect spurred me to strive for perfection, hoping to regain my parents' affection. My father's sorrow often manifested in anger. He disapproved of my curiosity, and once, in a moment that stung deeply, he publicly reprimanded me for an innocent mistake at church. These experiences left me with peculiar phobias and habits, such as an aversion to certain accessories worn by women, a dislike for the smell of camphor, and compulsive counting habits, especially with the number 3. Amidst these challenges, I found solace in literature. A turning point came when I read Abafi by Miklos Yozika. The story of Oliver Abafi, a hedonistic nobleman turned national hero, resonated with me. It taught me the power of self-restraint and control over one's emotions. This newfound perspective allowed me to harness my vivid imagination positively. I began to explore fantastical worlds in my mind, developing an acute sense of reality and imagination. This ability to visualize would later become pivotal in my professional life. My schooling at the Real Gymnasium in Gospic was a mix of triumphs and challenges. I excelled in mathematics, impressing my professors with my natural ability to calculate complex numbers. However, I struggled in drawing class, finding it difficult to focus on structured tasks, leading to poor grades and a lifelong aversion to diagrams. During this time, I also began to take my interest in inventions more seriously. I drafted schematics for a flying machine, a concept I would later disprove as an adult. But my journey was not without further hardships. In 1870, after graduating from the Real Gymnasium, I fell gravely ill, facing a battle for my life. My recovery led me to the Higher Real Gymnasium in Karlovac in 1873. Here, under my father's wishes, I attended classes at the local seminary. However, my heart was set on understanding electricity, a passion ignited by a physics teacher who introduced me to William Crookes's radiometer. This experience led to my first experiments with batteries, induction coils, and electrostatic generators. In the fall of 1874, I embarked on a 9-month journey through the forests and lakes of Eastern Europe. This solitary time strengthened me both physically and mentally. During these months, I transformed my vivid visions from a hindrance into a powerful tool for innovation. I conceived ideas like an underwater pipe system for transporting letters and packages, and even imagined a ring around the Earth's equator for high-tech transportation. Upon my return, my father honored his promise, securing me a scholarship at the Polytechnic School in Graz, Austria. With a cherished embroidered bag from my mother, symbolizing our Serbian heritage, I embarked on a new chapter in a foreign land in 1875. My first year in Graz was marked by intense dedication. I attended every lecture, studying relentlessly from early morning till evening. While some professors feared for my health due to this extreme schedule, others saw me as a star of first rank. In Graz, I began experimenting with alternating current, which would later define my career. However, my sophomore year took a dark turn as I developed a gambling habit, leading to financial ruin and academic failure. Ashamed, I kept my departure from the university in December 1878 a secret from my family. 1879 was a year of self-imposed exile. I worked as a draftsman in Maribor, earning a modest income, but still entangled in gambling. My stay in Slovenia ended abruptly when I was arrested for lacking a residency permit and was escorted back to Gospic by police. Back home, my father passed away in April 1879, heartbroken by my choices. Concerned about my future, 2 uncles supported my enrollment at Charles Ferdinand University in Prague in January 1880. Despite language barriers and arriving too late for formal enrollment, I audited lectures, continuing my education informally. In 1881, my professional journey began at the American Telephone Company in Budapest, where I was hired as an electrical engineer. There, I continued exploring alternating current in my spare time. A breakthrough came in 1882 during a walk with my colleague untold. I conceptualized the rotating magnetic field, a key to developing an induction motor that could run on AC without the need for a commutator, a less efficient component used in direct current systems. Impressed with my work, my superior Puskas Tivadar recommended that I move to Paris to work for Thomas Edison's Continental Edison Company. In Paris, I was initially tasked with designing dynamos, essential in DC circuits, by my boss, Charles Batchelor, who had been with Edison since 1870. In Strasbourg, while working off the clock, I built the first prototype of an induction motor, advancing the theory of alternating current. However, despite its efficiency and superiority over direct current, my ideas struggled to gain serious interest. DC, prevalent in the late 19th century, was limited as it sent electricity in one direction along a grid. In contrast, AC periodically reverses direction, being more efficient and capable of maintaining high voltage over long distances. My vision for AC was ahead of its time, facing technological and acceptance barriers. Financial difficulties followed, but my work at the company caught the attention of Charles Batchelor, my supervisor. Convinced of my potential, he recommended me to work alongside Thomas Edison in America. In 1884, arriving in New York, I carried a letter from Batchelor introducing me to Edison, who he deemed as one of the two great men he knew, the other being myself. Initially, I worked on improving Edison's DC motors. Despite our fundamental disagreements over AC, I outlined its advantages and proposed the polyphase principle, highlighting DC's inefficiencies and limitations, especially in long-distance power transmission. AC's capability to sustain varying high voltage levels and minimize power loss was a game-changer. Today, AC is used in power grids, with transformer substations reducing voltage over distances, and appliances either using AC directly or converting it to DC for stable power supply. In 1885, disenchanted with Edison's approach, I founded the Tesla Electric Light Company with backing from Robert Lane and Benjamin Vail. However, my financial demands and AC's perceived risks led to my ousting from the company, leading to a brief period of manual labor. Undeterred, in 1886, I partnered with Alfred S. Brown and Charles F. Peck to establish the Tesla Electric Company in Manhattan. Here I finalized the designs for the polyphase induction motor, stunning the scientific community in 1888 with my presentation at the American Institute of Electrical Engineers. My paper, A New System of Alternating Current Motors and Transformers, attracted the interest of George Westinghouse. Impressed by my early polyphase prototype, he visited my lab, marking the beginning of a significant partnership in the field of electricity. George Westinghouse, recognizing the potential of my innovations in alternating current, purchased all 40 of my patents related to generators, motors, and transformers for AC systems. He brought me on as an advisor at the Westinghouse plant in Philadelphia, where the first commercially viable AC devices were produced. This ushered in the era of the War of the Currents between 1888 and 1892, a fierce battle between AC, championed by Westinghouse and myself, and direct current, defended by Thomas Edison. Despite Edison's efforts to sway public opinion against AC, it proved to be the safer and more effective method for long-distance electricity delivery. The turning point came when John Pierpont Morgan, a major financier, merged Edison General Electric with the AC-focused Thomas Houston Company, forming General Electric, which fully embraced AC. This shift marked the victory of AC in the War of the Currents. During this time, I became a US citizen and established 2 personal laboratories in New York. However, financial challenges arose when the Westinghouse's expansion plans fell through, leading to the end of my dividend payments. Undeterred, I delved into high-frequency AC experiments, inventing a lamp that required only 1 wire, an oscillating transformer, and a high-frequency alternator. My 1891 lecture at Columbia College on these innovations amazed the audience and established me as a leading electricity researcher. I also laid the groundwork for radio technology. In 1893, I introduced the concept of wireless telegraphy, emphasizing the importance of grounding the transmitter and receiver. That year, my company illuminated the world's Columbian Exposition in Chicago entirely with AC, outbidding General Electric. By 1894, I received several honorary doctoral degrees and prestigious awards, including the Elliott Crescent Medal. A major highlight was the contract to build the first hydroelectric power plant at Niagara Falls, fulfilling a childhood dream and marking the defeat of the direct energy approach. Despite a devastating fire in 1895 that destroyed much of my early research, I continued my pioneering work. I demonstrated early uses of X-rays and developed the basic elements of the radio transmitter. In 1896, I built a unit that received radio waves, and in 1898, I showcased a radio-controlled boat at Madison Square Gardens. In the early 1900s, I obtained a patent for a system for transmitting electrical energy during a project commissioned by John Jacob Astor in Colorado Springs. I shifted focus to explore terrestrial stationary waves, considering it my greatest discovery. There I constructed a massive transmitter, experimenting with millions of volts of electricity. At my laboratory in Colorado Springs, I made groundbreaking discoveries. I found that the Earth itself could act as a conductor for electrical energy, and my experimental Tesla coil emitted sparks detectable miles away. I demonstrated the potential of wireless transmission of energy by lighting lamps 26 miles away from the power source. My work on stationary electromagnetic waves suggested a future where electricity could be transmitted over vast distances without wires. I dreamed of providing the world with free and clean electrical energy. However, my ideas often clashed with the profit-driven interests of investors like J.P. Morgan. During this prolific period, I also ventured into more unconventional areas. I claim to have received extraterrestrial signals, interpreting a series of beeps from one of my devices as communication from an intelligent entity. While many were skeptical, some, influenced by contemporary theories about Mars, believed I might have made contact with Martians. In January 1900, I returned to New York, driven to develop a major invention that would surpass the work of my contemporaries in wireless technology, including my new rival, Guglielmo Marconi. After patenting a magnifying transmitter, I sought funding for a wireless communication system. Initially approaching George Westinghouse, who declined to invest but provided machinery, I secured the majority of the project's funding from J.P. Morgan. With Morgan's backing, I built the Wardenclyffe Laboratory, featuring a 187-foot transmission tower with a 68-foot copper dome, the first of its kind for wireless broadcasting. My goal was to outshine Marconi, who had recently been credited with inventing wireless telegraphy after successfully receiving a transatlantic signal. Feeling that Marconi had borrowed heavily from my earlier ideas, I aimed to create a world telegraphy system, akin to the future World Wide Web. This system would allow individual receivers to pick up messages and news broadcasted globally. My ambition was to revolutionize communication, overshadowing Marconi and keeping my benefactor J.P. Morgan invested in my vision. My vision included various types of receivers, one resembling a fax machine to print newspapers, a loudspeaker for voice messages, and a handheld device akin to modern cell phones. By the summer of 1902, I had moved permanently to Wardenclyffe, focusing on increasing the power levels of my experiments. Despite forming a company with J.P. Morgan to support this venture, I faced significant financial hurdles. The elite of New York were hesitant to invest, seeing it as too risky. To keep my dream alive, I sold $33,000 of my personal property and borrowed an additional $10,000. However, financial challenges mounted with a $30,000 bill from Westinghouse for equipment, a lawsuit for unpaid property tax, and other expenses. My ambitious promise to extend the system's coverage to Australia did not convince Morgan to continue funding. In July 1903, he informed me that he would invest no further, a decision that devastated my plans for a global telegraphy system. In frustration, I increased the voltage of the magnifying transmitter to its maximum, creating lightning bolts in the New York sky. Morgan's withdrawal was partly due to my failure to meet the initial timeline for the transatlantic system, but there were other factors at play. Some speculated that Morgan feared the potential of free energy for all, which would impact profits. Others pointed to a lack of confidence in the wireless industry, tainted by scandals like those of conman Lancelot E. Pike. Morgan also seemed more interested in investing in DeForest wireless automobiles, which showed promising financial returns, and had secured a contract with the U.S. Navy. As a result of these setbacks, my reputation in electrical engineering suffered. I struggled to attract new investors, and my image shifted from celebrated genius to a man who couldn't fulfill his promises. To regain credibility, I attempted to commercialize small Tesla coils through the Tesla Electric and Manufacturing Company. However, this venture also failed due to insufficient investment. Entering the early 1900s, my challenges mounted. Even my reputation in Serbia couldn't secure funding, and my old partner John Jacob Astor, frustrated by my previous research choices, refused further support. By 1904, I resorted to consultancy and partnered with William B. Rankine to harness Niagara Falls power. However, my heart remained set on reviving Wardenclyffe. Investor interest waned, especially since J.P. Morgan held a 51% stake in my patents, complicating potential business deals. I sent Morgan numerous letters, ranging from detailed proposals to emotional pleas, yet nothing swayed him. Amid financial woes and the collapse of Canadian Niagara Power in 1905, I spiraled into a nervous breakdown, haunted by visions of my deceased brother and mother. Recovering in 1906, I shifted focus to mechanical engineering, particularly the science of flight, hoping to fund my Wardenclyffe work. I developed a bladeless turbine, but even this innovation couldn't attract investment, including from John James Astor. In 1913, I approached Jack Morgan, J.P. Morgan's son, seeking investment. While he showed interest in my turbine designs, granting me $20,000, I misused the funds to court German industrialist Sigmund Bergmann for wireless power research, which was halted by World War I. Over the next decade, I continued refining the turbine with various manufacturers. However, a critical design flaw, deformation of the internal discs at high RPM, hindered its success. My financial situation deteriorated. By 1916, I declared bankruptcy, admitting a meager monthly income and unable to pay taxes. Despite being president of the Nikola Tesla company, most of the stock was owned by others, and many of my patents had expired. In a last-ditch effort to salvage my finances, I sued Marconi in 1915 for patent infringement on radio technology. The lawsuit failed, and Marconi retained ownership until the Supreme Court's posthumous reversal in my favor in 1943. In the wake of financial challenges, I turned to smaller inventions to make a living. In 1918, I registered improvements in automobile speedometers, frequency meters and flow meters, licensing them to the Waltham Watch Company. Despite my changing fortunes, my name still held weight, and the company leveraged it to market their speedometers. My insights continued to attract attention, as in 1917, when I predicted the use of microwave radiation for ship detection, prefiguring radar technology of the 1930s. Despite financial struggles, I retained admirers. In 1915, a New York Times report mistakenly stated that I was to share the Nobel Prize in Physics with Thomas Edison, but I refused to share the honor with Edison. The prize ultimately went to William H. Bragg and his son. However, in 1917, my contributions were acknowledged when I received the Edison Medal from the American Institute of Electrical Engineers. This was a significant recognition of my work's impact on electrical engineering, but I showed little interest in the award, especially since it bore Edison's name. Throughout the 1920s, despite recognition, I lived modestly, embroiled in legal disputes over finances. My public presence diminished as I became a reclusive figure, known for feeding pigeons in Bryant Park, New York. On my 75th birthday in 1931, a resurgence of public interest came with a Time magazine cover feature. Science writer Kenneth Swayze orchestrated a collection of congratulatory letters from renowned scientists, including Albert Einstein. In interviews, I discussed plans to challenge Einstein's theory of relativity and expressed skepticism about atomic energy and optimism about interplanetary communications. Each year thereafter, I held press conferences on my birthday, sharing updates on scientific and personal endeavors. In 1932, I spoke about developing a motor powered by cosmic rays, and in 1936, I revealed my nightly toe-wiggling routine, which I believed would extend my life to 135 years. In 1934, I unveiled my plan to create a particle beam weapon at my birthday party, capturing public imagination. I claimed in the New York Times that this weapon could destroy thousands of enemy airplanes from hundreds of miles away and instantly incapacitate entire armies. Envisioning a future of mutually assured destruction, I believed this weapon could deter war by its sheer potential for devastation. The death beam was not mere fantasy. I had conducted a serious study on it, entitled The New Art of Projecting Concentrated, Non-Dispersive Energy Through Natural Media. This study detailed a weapon discharging particles at immense speeds, creating a destructive force. While the project gained attention, it remained unrealized. I enlisted Hungarian architect Titus de Bobula to design a tower for the death beam's evaluation, but our collaboration ended when de Bobula sought to involve me in dubious financial and arms dealings. International interest in the weapon led to negotiations with the League of Nations, the UK, and the Soviet Union. In 1935, the Soviets even contracted me to provide information for constructing the weapon, though it's unclear if they pursued the research. However, by 1938, the project began to unravel, and by 1940, my last attempt to pitch it as a World War II weapon to the US government failed. My health, already declining since a taxi accident in 1937, further complicated matters. My diet became restricted, and I maintained a strict distance from others to avoid germs. In my final years, reality began to blur, as evidenced by my attempt to send money to the long-deceased Mark Twain. I became increasingly reclusive, only meeting select visitors like Prince Peter II of Yugoslavia and scientist Roy Fitzgerald. I passed away from a heart attack on January 7, 1943, in my suite at the Hotel New Yorker, where I had resided for a decade. My death was mourned by prominent figures worldwide, including Eleanor Roosevelt, Vice President Henry Wallace, and numerous Nobel laureates. As I neared the end of my journey, my funeral took place at St. John the Divine Cathedral in New York City on January 12th. Attended by more than 2,000 people and presided over by members of the Serbian Orthodox Church, it was a reflection of the impact I had made. Holding over 700 patents at the time of my death, my ashes were placed in a golden sphere, now exhibited at the Tesla Museum in Belgrade. After my passing, the US government inspected my notes for any valuable insights that might aid in the war effort, yet they found nothing of significant importance. Eventually, in 1951, these documents were returned to the Tesla Museum in Belgrade, along with my ashes. The mystery of the particle beam weapon I envisioned, known as the death beam, continued to intrigue long after my death. Despite government denials, there were claims that they possessed one of my microfilms, intensely reviewed posthumously, though the truth behind these claims remains elusive. As our journey through the electric tapestry of my life and inventions comes to a close, I thank you for joining me in exploring the wonders and mysteries of a mind that dared to dream beyond the visible horizon. We have traversed through the highs and lows of my career, from the sparking coils in my lab to the visions of a world interconnected by wireless energy. But remember, this is not just a tale of the past. It's a living inspiration, a reminder that the impossible can become possible with perseverance, imagination, and a relentless pursuit of knowledge. If my story has ignited a spark of curiosity in you, if it has illuminated the corridors of your mind, then I urge you to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to this channel for more explorations into the enigma of my life's work and its impact on your world. Thank you for your time and curiosity. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, the future is ours to create. This is Nikola Tesla signing off, but the journey of discovery is just beginning.